Hi, everyone. My name is Allison. My pronouns are she, her. I am the executive director of the Gallatin County Democrats, and we're really excited to host a candidate and community conversation with Raph Graybill, who is running for Montana Attorney General. And I'm just really excited and grateful that you're running, Raph, and can't wait to learn a little bit more about you. So if you'd like to take a few minutes to introduce yourself right now, that would be great.
Great. Well, thank you, Allison. I've said this before, but the Gallatin County Dems are among the most organized. No, they are the most organized, bar none, Democratic Central Committee in Montana, and they have done really, really excellent work. So thank you for putting this on. I think the event I did with you guys, one of the first events I did was the musical chairs thing you did last summer.
Yes.
And for those that weren't there, I mean, this was great because it was, they had candidates or prospective candidates for all these different offices, and you just go from table to table to table doing this like a little mini pitch, and it made us so much better. It made everyone better, and I think it was really informative for people. And some of the strongest allies that we've had in this race from Bozeman began at that event, so that was pretty cool. Well, thank you guys for everything you're doing. And it doesn't take a rocket scientist to know that Bozeman is kind of the big Democratic vote getter right now, and hugely important for any Democrat who wants to win statewide. So you guys are doing good work, and thank you for that. I'll give you kind of a couple updates on things that are going on in my day job that I think might be interesting to this group. And then I'll talk to you a little bit about, what I think is so important about this race, and why, what I would appreciate you to share with your friends and family when they ask you, what do you think about this AG's race? What's going on? And then after that, to try to break up the typical Zoom call monotony, we are going to do trivia, potentially. So we have 5 questions that are all Bozeman related, and we will use the chat window to do trivia. So we'll see if that works, but it's pretty fun. And my campaign advisor, Tyler, who's from Belgrade, looked up these questions. So you've got a local native knowledge on this, and it should be kind of fun. So a couple updates that you guys should know about, if you don't already, is there's 2 big cases going on right now that could affect the election in Montana. One is the Trump campaign sued in federal court to try to effectively get rid of the option to vote by mail and vote early in Montana. And it's interesting, the Trump campaign, and it's the RNC, the Trump for President campaign, and the local committee have filed these lawsuits in dozens of other states. And it's kind of a template lawsuit that they do. They come in, they say vote by mail is terrible, it's awful, get rid of it. And then the lawsuits typically sit there. And what's interesting right now is, they filed this lawsuit in Montana last week. They've actually gone to court and asked for expedited relief. They really want to move quickly on this. And so they are really coming after vote by mail. As you all know, the governor back in the primary issued a directive that gave counties the option, so they had the choice, to, instead of doing a traditional in-person election, they could opt in to having mail ballots plus expanded early vote. And that expanded early vote piece is really important because people say it's an all-mail election. You should know it's not an all-mail election. If you want to go vote in person, you can do that. And there's actually a 30-day window in which you can do that. Ballots become available on October 2nd, so it's really coming up quick here. And make sure your friends and family know, if you're one of these traditional folks who really likes voting in person, you can do that. Trump campaign doesn't like that. The Republican National Committee doesn't like that. And there's a lawsuit going on right now. I'm lead counsel on that case, and you'll see some filings from us in next week, and there'll be actually a hearing in court in 2 weeks that will determine whether this system continues. And, as the governor said in his order, having this vote by mail option is so important. It was important to safety back during the primary, so that people don't have to risk, their health if they're going to go vote. And no one should ever have to choose between their civic commitments like voting and potentially exposing themselves to a dangerous virus. And so we're going to do everything we can to protect this option for folks who are immunocompromised, who might be older, or just don't want to expose themselves. So that's something that's going on, and we'll see some movement on that pretty quick. The other thing I'm delighted to inform this call of is, I'm sure you've all followed the shenanigans around the post office and the various ways in which the new Postmaster General, Louis DeJoy, has tried to undermine the mail. Well, this afternoon, Governor Bullock filed a lawsuit against the Postmaster General that details the ways that his actions have illegally hurt the mail delivery in Montana and how important the mail is to folks in Montana. Whether it's having that prescription come on time, whether it's getting your check for unemployment, there's a whole range of things we rely on the mail for. And you can kind of imagine how a bureaucrat in D.C. who walks everywhere or takes his car, probably chauffeured everywhere, might not see how important the mail is. But gosh, if you live in Webo, the mail matters. If you live in Bozeman, the mail matters. And I'm lead counsel in that case as well. I wouldn't normally direct you to legal filings for good reading, but actually this complaint's kind of fun to read. And it begins with the story of Stagecoach Mary, who's the first African-American woman in America to receive a contract with the post office to deliver mail. And she was in Cascade, Montana in 1917. And there was a sort of a selection process where the first person to hitch 6 horses the fastest got the contract. And Stagecoach Mary got that contract, and she would ride horses, she would snowshoe, and she would carry a revolver and a bolt-action rifle to fend off thieves and bandits. So Stagecoach Mary is part of a proud tradition of getting the mail there on time in Montana, which is, kind of the birth certificate for Montana towns and cities is when you first get your post office. So it's a really important case. It's not just about, necessarily the election and mail voting. It's about a way of life in our state, and really excited to be part of trying to push back on some of the bad stuff there. Real briefly about our race, and I've met with most of you before, and I don't want to, rehash and give you the stump again, but I do want to make sure that kind of the stakes in the AG race, because, I know a lot of times folks, they know about the Senate race and the Gov race and these other races, but if your friends or family might ask you, well, what's up in, the AG race, right? It's helpful to have some things to talk about. And I'll tell you, every single elected official this time is talking about healthcare access, whether you're running for Senate or on down to state legislatures. The biggest threat to healthcare right now is a lawsuit before the U.S. Supreme Court that will get decided under the next Attorney General. And it's a lawsuit being brought by attorneys general that would kill the Affordable Care Act. The Affordable Care Act is the law that says that insurance companies cannot use your pre-existing condition as an excuse to rip away your health care. The Affordable Care Act is the law that says that Montana can expand its Medicaid program and provide health insurance to 100,000 folks in our state who otherwise wouldn't have it. It's that program that provides access to mental health services, treatment services. And it's that program that keeps our rural hospitals alive. You're going to hear about that a lot on TV, about rural hospitals not closing down. Well, that's because of the Affordable Care Act. Well, this lawsuit, a lot of folks are talking about it, but the people that are actually going to affect this lawsuit and decide whether the Affordable Care Act stays or goes are state attorneys general. And in my race, there could not be a greater contrast than between me and Austin Knudsen. My opponent's named Austin Knudsen. He is an extremist legislator in Culbertson, Montana, who is about as right-wing as they come. He says the entire reason he's running for attorney general is to join that lawsuit, is to be part of the lawsuit to kill the Affordable Care Act. What would that mean? That would mean we would lose 10,000 jobs in Montana overnight. It would mean that the 100,000 of your brothers and sisters in Montana who use Medicaid expansion would lose their health care in the middle of a pandemic. It would mean rural hospitals would close. And again, if you are a fancy Texas AG and you're doing something that's fashionable on the news, like filing this lawsuit, you might not think through the difference that having a rural hospital makes to people in Montana, But we all know the difference between driving half an hour to potentially life-saving care and 2 hours could be everything. And that all is at risk. And again, everybody's talking about this lawsuit. And you hear about like pre-existing conditions, those issues, but the people that will affect it are attorneys general. I'm running to stop this lawsuit and fight for our loved ones with pre-existing conditions. My opponent is running to join it. And it's about as simple as that. The other issue you should know about in this race is public lands. And again, public lands, everyone's talking about it. It's an important issue. Public lands are what makes Montana so unique. As a new father, I think about where my dad taught me to fish when I was a kid up in the Little Belts. And I think about taking my daughter to fish there as well and teaching her. I mean, it's about family. It's about what it means to live in this state. Well, you should know that the threat to our public lands and our way of life is very real. And wealthy out-of-state interests who want to come in and throw a locked gate over that county road you've used for 3 generations, they're here. And they're working hard to elect folks like my opponent. They're working hard to make it difficult for hunters and anglers in our state to recreate, for folks like me to go hiking or fishing or camping. And that's really on the ballot this fall. The reason I got into this race and ran for Attorney General was going to court and fighting and winning to protect access to public lands. That's what I am about. My opponent voted to gut the stream access law. He voted to kill Habitat Montana, which gives you, a Montanan, a right to 1 million acres to hunt and fish. And he's even suing a group of vets in his hometown to block them from their own land. Okay, like I didn't make that up. There's a veterans park that's been around since the 40s, the American Legion Park. It's right on the Missouri River. And they raised money, the American Legion, to buy this park, and they'd have Boy Scout jamborees there, and they'd bring veterans who've just come home from foreign wars to this park. Very important to that community. Well, Austin Knutson and his family bought up all the land around it, and they shut off access. They put a gate over the county road, and people can't go there anymore. They effectively stole their land. And Austin went so far as to sue these veterans to keep them off. So who's going to protect your public lands? Who's going to fight for you to have access to recreate? The guy suing vets to block them, or the guy that went to court and fought and won? And that's the kind of choice you're facing in this race. I'll end on a happy note, which is we're doing really well. And that is in large part due to some of the folks on this call. We have yard signs up all over the state. We have been consistently raising a lot more money than our opponent. Money's not everything, but I'll tell you this. I don't take money. I've never taken money from corporate PACs. I don't do it because I think as your AG, I owe you loyalty. I only want to take money from people or organizations that represent people, right? My opponent's taken money from big tobacco. He's taken money from big insurance companies, big telecom companies. I'm taking money from real people, and we're lapping him like 2-to-1 on grassroots support in this race. And the last thing is polling. We did some polling. We saw some polling that shows that this race is really tight. You know, it's like neck and neck, exactly tied. And I'll tell you, that's good news. I'm a first-time statewide candidate. My opponent's a first-time statewide candidate. Okay, slightly more people in Montana say they're Republicans and Democrats. So if you ask someone, what do you think about this random D and this random R? The Democrats should do a little bit worse, but we're tied. And that's why they're freaking out. That's why they're already spending money to try to knock me down, say I'm part of Antifa. I mean, it's ridiculous. And because we are on the cusp of winning this thing. And so it's really exciting. And then we tell people about this race. We say, hey, here's what Rafe's about. Here's what Austin's about. We don't lie. We don't fudge it. We give them honest, here's what their positions are. We come ahead 13 points when people know about our race. 13 points. It's huge. So I close by saying, we know we can win this race. The proof is in the pudding. This is where you come in. There are 2 things you can do, three things you can do to help us win, to make that 13-point thing we did a reality in our race. The first is donate. Everyone's asking you to do this, and I hate to ask you to do this because you are tapped. I know that. But it is money, donations, grassroots support from real people that takes our message and puts it in front of Montanans who need to decide. Now, I don't blame someone who doesn't know anything about our race. People have real lives. They're busy, right? Like, why should you study up on the AG race? You have a life to live, right? You're worried about school. You're worried about the virus, okay? But when people who are looking for information want to know about our race, we can get them that information by saying, hey, here's what Raph Graybill's about. And that takes donations. And if you can consider donating $5, $15, $50, that makes a huge difference in our ability to win this race. That's thing 1. Thing 2, tell your friends and family. This is still, everyone's got an opinion about the Senate race or the Gov race, stuff like that. But if you can tell your friends and family about this race, about why they should care about this race, and invest the time, vote all the way down the ballot, look into these candidates, that makes a big difference to us. Because having people engaged, that has kind of a cascading effect. That has a domino effect. And if people say, shoot, this healthcare thing is for real, it's coming to a head in the AG race, that's really powerful. And we have to share that message. That if you have a friend or a family member who's been affected by cancer, well, if my opponent wins and that lawsuit succeeds, an insurance company can say, you don't get health care anymore because you have a pre-existing condition, right? I mean, that affects every family in this state. That's what's important. Third thing you can do, volunteer. We are doing a big effort specific to our campaign to get the word out. And I'll tell you again, our race is a lower profile race. And so if you're calling folks, I mean, there's a lot of options. You can call, you can write letters, you can do a whole bunch of stuff. And Tyler put into the chat options. But let me just give you one example. You're calling through a list and giving people a message about our campaign. Even if you are just leaving a bunch of voicemails because people are sick of the calls, that voicemail you leave could be the only piece of information that person has about our race. That could be the entirety of what they have. And by you calling up and saying, I met Raph Graybill a couple of times, he's an honest guy, he's fighting for our health care, he's fighting for our public lands, that's the information they need. That's more time than I might get in front of them on a TV ad, because it's a 45-second voicemail. So volunteering will make the difference. Those big fancy races, they have all the resources in the world. I need you to win this race. I know I can. The polling says we can, but I need your help to do it. So if you can check out the chat window, if you click chat at the bottom, Tyler sent through a donate link, and he sent through a link to sign up to volunteer. If you're able to volunteer, it's a big difference to us. So with that, I will grab my seltzer. And I would love to now do a little bit of our trivia. Yes, and Liz asked, when you call on our behalf, can you leave messages? Yes, we are a campaign that leaves voicemails because that's content people need to get. So we are very pro voicemails, and the more personal, the better. I don't like these campaigns that say, just keep calling. No, we want to leave voicemails to people. Okay, so what I'd love to do now is, and then we'll do some questions and open up discussion, but we want to do trivia, make this a little bit fun. So we have, does everyone have access to the chat window? Everyone's used Zoom enough? Okay. So what we're going to do is I'm going to go through, I'm going to read a trivia question, and then the first person to get the answer into the chat window will win. And the person with the most points at the end will win a special deluxe prize from the campaign. Very special, exclusive. I'll tell you at the end. So with that, and everyone has access to chat. I see Liz is in there, but Ben can figure out chat, Tyler, and Winston, Dwayne, and Matthew, if you guys can use the chat, hopefully that'll be a way to get in there. And Pat. All right. So I have 4 Bozeman questions and 1 Great Falls question, because I'm from Great Falls and I care very deeply about Great Falls and I'm deeply parochial. So we're going to do a Great Falls question, and then we'll do some Bozeman questions. All right. Everyone ready? You have your chat windows open. First person to type the answer wins. All right. No cheating either. Okay. No Googling this. Honor code. All right. First question. Who was the last statewide elected official who called Great Falls home in Montana? Stumper.
That's a tough one. You led with the tough one.
It's a tough one.
I bet Dwayne knows. Any guesses?
All right. I'll give a hint. This person left office in 1989. I'm calling it.
Yeah.
Mike Greeley, Attorney General, 3 terms. Last statewide elected official from Great Falls.
All right. Now we know.
There you go. All right, these will be easier, hopefully. All right, second question. Which Jurassic Park film had an early premiere in Bozeman? Liz guesses Jurassic Park 1. Ben, you can guess unless you've seen these answers. And there's only like 6, right? You just throw one out.
I'm afraid the kid from Belgrade is stumping everyone.
I know the Belgrade kid is really stumping everyone. It's Jurassic Park 3. Early premiere in Bozeman. All right, next trivia question. What was the name of the Bozeman-based brewery with the slogan, "No Whiners"? No points off for guessing. Allison, you can guess.
Oh no, that's okay.
Oh, you got to guess.
Come on, everyone's got to participate.
A Bozeman-based one? No one.
Yeah, Ben, you got to guess. Bozeman-based brewery with the slogan, "No Whiners."
It's not Bozone, but the person that made this brewery then created Bozone.
Winston gets his SP.
That's right.
There you go.
I
Spanish
believe
Peaks.
Spanish Peaks.
Winston, 1 point. All right. Bonus. What was their most famous beer? Oh, Hillary's going to crush this. Yeah. Oh, Pat. Okay, Pat, you get a point too. Hillary, we are doing Bozeman trivia. All right.
Hi,
next question.
great. Bozeman trivia. So fun.
It's currently a tie between Winston and Pat.
Oh, well,
All right,
I want to beat both of them.
You're going to crush it. All right, next question. What is the most snow in inches that has fallen at Bridger Bowl in one 24-hour period? Everyone should guess on this one.
I say 72 inches.
Hillary says 72. Liz says 30. Pat says 50. Allison 60. Ben 35. Winston, Dwayne. $42. All right, I'm calling it. Hillary Carls wins. It's 68 inches.
Well, I'm married to dirtbag ski bum, so high five to me.
All right, bonus question. Anyone can get a point on this. What year was that?
I want to say 1996.
Hillary says 96.
It could have been 96, 97 ski year. It was a big year.
Allison? Ben? 97. Well, Price is Right action there. $85. 92. You guys are going old. Liz wins. 2003.
I remember this because they actually shut down Bridger Bowl and they opened it up for like a film crew to come in and shoot. And they did all the lines that you'd always dreamed of doing. I can't remember the film, but.
Nice.
Bozeman, it's not for the rest of us. Just kidding. All right, last question. Who was the last U.S. Senator from Bozeman before Steve Daines? And put it in the chat. Don't say it out loud. Who was the last U.S. Senator from Bozeman before Steve Daines? My daughter downstairs is crying because I said Steve Daines. If you hear some sobbing, that's what that is. Anyone? No guesses? Liz guesses Bacchus. Hillary guesses Bacchus. All right. So it's a trick question. Steve Daines is from California. And the answer is Zales Ecton, who served one term before losing to Montana Representative Mike Mansfield, who became Senator Mansfield. And the rest is history.
Nice.
Zales Ecton. How about that for a blast from the past?
When was his term? What was the year of his term?
I think he lost in 52?
Yep, 1952.
Like 52, yeah. So he was a senator from 40, elected in 46, lost in 52.
Okay. All right. Cool. Awesome. Well, let's open it up to some questions. That was awesome, Rafe and Tyler.
Wait, who won? We have to announce the winner. I think.
Right. Yeah.
Who's the winner, Tyler?
It's sort of a three-way tie between Winston, Pat, and Hillary.
Tied at 1 point. Well, you can all receive the special prize, which is a coveted, limited edition, very hard to get, Raph Graybill bumper sticker.
Ooh.
They don't have them in Great Falls anymore. They don't have them in Helen anymore. You can't get these things. They are hard to get. We have 3 for you.
Excellent. Awesome. And how should they get them from you?
We will get them to you in Bozeman. We'll find a way. We're
Okay.
writing down Hillary, Liz, and Winston.
Okay.
I think we're in contact with Liz and Hillary, and Winston will get your contact info, get you a bumper sticker.
Yes. Awesome. Perfect. Well, that was fun. Thanks for bringing that game. That was awesome, you guys.
I want to mix it up a little bit for the average Zoom call.
Absolutely. Totally. I mean, yeah. Oh, yeah. Pat says you should autograph them.
Oh, a little John Hancock on the bumper sticker? All right.
Love it.
We can do that.
Okay, cool. So let's open up to some questions. So does anyone have a question that you want to put in either the chat, or you just want to unmute yourself and ask of Rafe about his campaign or what he's going to do when, you know, he wins, because he's going to win? Anything that's on your mind, ask away. And if not, I've got some questions that I can throw out there. Hillary, I know you have something.
Mostly because Rafe is my favorite candidate on the ballot. I'll tell anyone it. I mean, seriously, #1 best person the Democrats can vote for this year. So my question is, Rafe, literally, how can we most help you to win this election? 100%. I text you it. I ask you it all the time. How can we help you win this thing?
I'll repeat my points from earlier. You just got on, so I'll say it again. But you're doing these, and Hillary is a shining example of this. So 1, donate, and if you can get your friends to donate, get them to donate as well. Because research, we don't have the, big tobacco in our back pocket, but we do have grassroots supporters, and donations make a difference, and they get us in front of real voters. And if we do that, the polling says we win this race, bar none. 2, make an active effort to tell your friends and family. Maybe you're an attorney and you have a large list of clients who ask you, who should I vote for? This is a helpful way. Maybe you're a real estate agent. You talk to people and they say, well, what about this election? Bring this up, right? So use your networks person to person. And a lot of our organizing, volunteering actually relies on that person-to-person interaction. And 3rd, volunteer. We're going to be doing tons of phone calls, tons of text messages, everything we can to get in touch with folks. Tyler has put into the chat a link to volunteer and to donate. And if you can do those 2 things, that encompasses telling your friends and family, we will win this race. And like I said, it can be that one text. It can be that one voicemail that no one ever, you're like, you left the voicemail, you never think of it again, right? But that's the one piece of information that person has about me in this race and the choice in this race, we can win. So need your help, need it big time, and we know we can do it.
I just want to follow up on this. I think why I'm obsessed with Rafe is twofold. 1, he's a fantastic human being. And frankly, I judged the crap out of Rafe before because on paper, he annoys the crap out of me. He's too young. He's good looking. He's white. He's probably over 6 foot tall and Ivy League educated. And then you meet this guy and he's bananas. Like, I mean, he's like one of the most inspiring human beings, honest, earnest, roots of Montana, Great Falls. And that's why he's just like such an impressive package. But number two, why I'm really into this race is it's attorney general, and that's the office that sues people that makes it to the Supreme Court. Like, I always talk about this, like Steve Bullock, he brought the dark money lawsuit and took it up to the court. Raph Graybill is going to have the creativity and like the drive and the inspiration to bring some really amazing, inspiring lawsuits that can only come out of Montana. And that's why I'm really excited about you, Raph. And so my follow-up question is like, what's your passion project and what is it that you're like super nerding out about in terms of what you want to do first, so that we can all be inspired to give until it hurts, give time, give money, community, give until it hurts this election cycle, because 2020 is going to need it, or we're not going to win this. These are super razor tight races, and it's going to be extraordinary when Raph wins. So sorry, guys. I know this isn't my only Zoom. I mean, like, this isn't just a conversation between us, so I'll open it up. But anyhow, get behind Raph.
Thank you, Hillary. And Hillary, you have been such a big supporter, and I cannot thank you enough. And you've done everything for us, and I really appreciate it. Passion projects. I mean, that's a good question. I've got more than I should even say. But I'll say two things are really on my mind right now. Well, three things. So, and I'll just be lightning around. So, one, lawsuits we talked about at the top of this call. We have to beat back this effort to make people choose between their safety and their civic duty of voting. And we have to beat back these efforts that are trying to get rid of vote by mail, get rid of early voting. Like, literally, our democracy is on the line. That work will be done between now and the election. And I am prioritizing getting that done because folks have to vote in Montana. And if we win here, we can win across the country. So that's one. Thing two, there is going to be a lot of work to be done in our country around public health and science and medicine, and getting back to a world where we're not at war and we don't politicize like science and medicine and public health. And even if Democrats come up and win big this cycle, we're going to have to reach out and like have those tough conversations with people who might not agree with us politically, but come back to a sort of common understanding around expertise in this country and around public health. And I really want to be part of that conversation. I think the AG has been kind of absent right now, but can play a really big role in saying like public health is real, science is real. Like, we know the tools that we have that make a difference and can save lives and make our country better. We just have to get behind them and give them fulsome support. That's really been on my mind lately, especially as I watch for the war on public health in our state. The third thing that's been a passion project of mine since the start of this campaign has been how much work we can do on prescription drugs. I love this issue for so many reasons. I'll tell you a couple reasons why. So one, it's a classic issue where every candidate is going to give you some boring plan about how they're going to fix prescription drugs. You know who's actually giving real leadership on prescription drugs in America? It's state attorneys general who actually do something, who are going to court and investigating these anti-competitive cartels that jack up the prices and do something about it and sue them and get that money back into your pocket. And we can do that here. Give you one example that just sort of, in my mind, highlights how bananas the prescription drug industry is, but how AGs do something, can do something about it. So there's a drug called Humira. You probably see the ads on TV. Right? And it's a drug for rheumatoid arthritis. And I have a really good friend, one of my best friends in the world, who takes Humira because, he has rheumatoid arthritis. He's 31. And it's a life-changing thing. I mean, it makes him, he can live his life to the fullest, and it's really important. That drug's patents, like the monopoly on that drug being sold, have expired for 5 years. For 5 years, anyone can make a copy of Humira. But in America, there are no generic drugs for Humira. Zero. You know what Humira costs per year? $72,000 per year for this one drug. No generic competitors, patents expired for 4 years. Okay? And that's a problem for him. It's also a problem for you, because if you're on health insurance, your plan is paying for someone else to pay that monopoly price for Humira. You're getting ripped off too, and your bills are higher as a result of it. And this is because of this anti-competitive conduct that companies get together and they work together illegally and they rig the system so that they don't have competitors, or the competitors agree to fix prices, and we all pay more money as a result. Now, that's against the law now. That's been against the law for 120 years in this country. But with the federal government asleep, doing nothing, it's going to be state attorneys general, and it's always been state attorneys general, who do the hard work and say, I'm not afraid to pick the fight with a special interest group that controls this cartel. I will take on this case. And they get money back to us. I mean, it's that simple. And I think that's it affects everybody. You don't have to be old or young. I have a 17-month-old daughter, 17 months old today. And, she gets ear infections because she's, in daycare, right? I get a little bottle like this big of ear infection ear drops, $50. And I have good insurance, $50, right? It's not like an exotic drug, it's like antibiotics in your ear, right? So there's a lot of bad stuff going on in this industry, and it's state AGs who provide leadership. And I just love this issue because it's not traditionally political in like the left-right sense, but it's very political in the sense that like it changes your life and you can do something about it and make your life better.
That is crazy that drug costs that much money. And thank you for being passionate about it. As a daughter who has aging parents, I appreciate that topic a lot. So does anyone else have some questions? Dwayne, do you have a question? Yep, go ahead and unmute yourself. Oh, Dwayne, you're on mute. There you go.
I'm too old for this stuff.
You got it.
You're not.
So, Rafe, I've never met you, but I've had the chance to observe some of your sessions, and I can remember being very active on Steve Bullock's campaign for Attorney General. So, you're on a good path. And the question that I was going to ask you, or one of them, was what Hillary asked you. So you've done a good job of explaining that. I'll give you a little bit of information on your drug campaign, and that is that when my drug, prescription drug, what do they call it, Medicare Part D, when it was bought out last year, the new company raised rates 40% immediately. And then last month I went in for my Eliquis prescription, and it had been $141, and in 1 month they raised it to $258.
Wow, so, 1 month.
That's a 3-month prescription, but that would have been last month. It would have been end of July or the 1st of August when I did that. So I don't understand how those things happen, but that's private industry for you.
Yeah.
And so the question that I have that I'm sure you've thought about is that the cost of medical insurance here in the U.S. is a direct connection to the private insurance industry. And so the number one question, if we're ever going to get to a Medicare for all universal health care plan, whatever it turns out to be, is you're fighting the private insurance industry. So do you have any solutions for that, or are you thinking about that at all? And I know there's only so much you can do in their position.
Right. Well, I can tell. I mean, obviously the AG isn't a legislator, and I often portray it as a super position. It can do anything, but there are some things you can't do. I can say, the AG has a tremendous power to protect the healthcare access tools we have now. Right. The Affordable Care Act is not perfect, and there's a lot that should change about it. A lot I would change about it. But if we get rid of it, obviously that's a massive step backward in our state and would have immediate deleterious effects on Montana. And so what the AG can do, I think, while the legislature figures out kind of what's the big picture on where healthcare is going, the AG can do is can be on the defense against these dangerous efforts to get rid of healthcare, to make healthcare worse, give insurance companies more power over us, Like I'm personally affronted by the idea that an insurance company essentially blames you for your illness as an excuse to get rid of your care. I mean, that's like the opposite of what insurance companies are supposed to do, which is cover, like make, go through on the promise they made, right? So that's on the defense side. On the offense side, it's stuff like this prescription drug issue we've talked about, other anti-competitive practices. And it's not just prescription drugs. I mean, it could be a whole range of industries where, we're subject to illegal conduct and we shouldn't be. You asked sort of like how do those prices go up? One of the things I've proposed as AG is that, as is the case in some other states, anytime a drug's price year over year increases by 50% or more, we automatically review it and look at it and say, okay, it was this, did the factory burn down? And so like the price went up. Okay, that makes sense. That's an economic reason. Or was there something more nefarious? Was it just profiteering and price gouging, which is against the law? And by just having a simple review process like that, I think we can root out a lot of this behavior and hopefully save people some money. I was talking to actually an insurance company of all entities a couple months ago, and they were saying in the last 2 years, the share of their like claims paid out that went to prescription drugs went up from 23 cents on the dollar to 30 cents on the dollar. So they're seeing, even insurance companies are seeing more money going to pharmacy. And a lot of it is, it's not even that well concealed. The Attorney General of Connecticut, for example, brought a case against a whole number of generic drug manufacturers who, his case was mostly about like skin creams, prescription creams. And in the case, he found, like investigating these prices going up and up and up, he found that these companies would get together and like have steak dinners where they would talk about illegally fixing the price of, prescription skincare creams. I mean, you can't make it up. It's like textbook illegal. But they do it, they get away with it because they don't expect to get caught. And that's why I think it's so important to have AGs who are willing to say, I am not scared about the money they'll dump in, and they're dumping money into my opponent. I am scared about the effects that their decisions have on working people in Montana. And like at its core, that's what the AG, I think, should do.
Awesome, thanks. Any other questions? Marilyn or Elizabeth, Winston?
I have a question. So, Rafe, I know that you said that you are the lead, whatever it is, for lead counsel on the bill to defend Montana and the Bullock administration from Trump's stoppage of our ability to vote by mail. But what are the other things that the Attorney General can do to protect voting rights? Because that's actually top of the mind right now. And then I wanted to just thank you and congratulate you on your work on healthcare and the protection of what healthcare we have, which at this point is the ACA, because that is little known. And I think that I was not aware of that until you said that tonight, which is shocking to me because that's something that I totally pay attention to. Yeah. So anyway, voting rights. What can the Attorney General do to protect voting rights?
Two things right off the bat. So, and this is kind of a defensive, offensive thing, like with prescription drugs. So on the defensive, we have to really fight hard against any kind of voter suppression laws that the next legislature might potentially put into place. Particularly, I'm fighting hard to get Mike Cooney elected. I think Mike will win this race. But if there isn't that veto pen there, if Gianforte is governor, we have to elect a Democratic Attorney General to be an independent check on the legislature. And you could imagine the Montana legislature doing something like you saw in the Dakotas, where there are these really ugly, racially motivated voter suppression laws designed to depress turnout of American Indians. And if that were to pass the legislature in Montana, you'd want to bet your bottom dollar on having an AG who would fight against it, would say, this is unconstitutional, it's wrong, I won't defend it, I'll fight against it. And that's really, really why in Montana, we go back to our constitutional convention in the 1970s, and the delegates are talking about what should the AG be. They have this debate, and the debate is, should the AG work for the governor and be a gubernatorial appointee, like Wyoming has that, it's pretty common, or should the AG be independently elected and loyal only to the Constitution and to the people? And they chose that latter path. And it's in exactly that kind of situation where you have a runaway legislature, no veto pen from the governor, and something that's deeply unconstitutional, that deeply offends our most basic values around what democracy looks like, that you want an AG who's independent and will fight for our Constitution. So that's defense. Offense, a year ago, I announced a plan that I'm really excited about, where we can actually implement automatic voter registration through the AG's office. Okay, that sounds weird. What? Isn't that SOS? No, I'll tell you about it. So right now, you go to get your driver's license in Montana, which is a rigorous identity process, more rigorous than registering to vote. You have an option to opt in to register to vote. Well, what happens under the current law, so one, opting in is kind of a barrier. We should switch it to opting out, really. Give people a chance, but just make it automatic. Just do it, right? What happens right now is you type in your info and it gets printed out in your license, and that gets populated into a PDF document at DMV. That gets faxed, like, old school fax, to a county clerk who prints it off and then by hand updates your voter registration, okay? That's nice, but it introduces all kinds of errors into the process. And that's why a lot of people in 2018, you remember Bozeman had those awful lines, right? A lot of times what that is you go to vote at your precinct and your ID says 5th Street and you live, and your voter register says 5th ST period. Well, that's technically a difference that makes you a problem person, so you got to go to the county and wait in line, right? No one should have to wait in line for that. We should just automatically have them match. Well, I worked on a bill in the last legislative session with a Republican, Geraldine Custer, where we would have fixed that and just go to the DMV, prove who you are. It automatically talks to the voter file and it updates your registration. Well, the Republicans killed it. Thanks. But in the process of writing this bill, we concluded that actually there is state law authority now to do this. You just need to elect an AG and a Secretary of State who care about voting, right? And if you elect me and Bryce Bennett, we've said we'll work together to get this done. We don't need to ask the legislature for permission. It's possible now, makes government better. Let's do it.
Great. That is awesome. Yeah, that's so good. So good to know that like you can have that power and that option and make it easy on us, because it needs to be easier, not harder to vote.
Right.
Any other questions? There's a couple people we haven't heard from yet. Don't be shy. Or put your question in the chat. Or I'll ask a question.
You can cold call people.
I know.
Just kidding.
So you've been on the campaign trail for a while now. What, other than the pandemic, is the most surprising thing about campaigning that you've learned?
That's a really good question. I think I expected at the start of this there to be a lot more heckling and rough moments and people yelling at you. And I have found that as you travel Montana, people are fundamentally decent and good. And even if they don't agree with you, they want to listen to you and they want to share their story with you and what they're worried and concerned about. And that has been really touching. And you meet people from all different backgrounds around the state and you learn, we have a lot of common concerns. People are worried about their families. They're worried about safety. They're worried about paying for healthcare. And it's really, to me, it's really taught me a lot about how proud I am to be a Montanan, not to get sentimental about it, but there are really good people out there. And we are so, so lucky to live in a state where it's those person-to-person connections that ultimately are what matter, much more than, just the TV ads and things like that. So it's been a really humbling experience getting to share my story with people and hear theirs.
That's awesome. Thank you. Any other questions?
Pat has a question.
Yeah.
Ray, for us to explain to a potential voter what the Attorney General is, what is like a couple of sentences of what would your day be like when you are in charge of the Attorney General office? How much is it filing lawsuits? How much is over the hiring attorneys to do some little things? How much is the motor vehicle, whatever?
I'd put it in really simple terms that the Attorney General is your lawyer. And the rights and protections and freedoms that you're entitled to under the law and under the Constitution really need a lawyer to take on meaning and to take on force in the legal system. And the AG should be an independent watchdog for your rights. You know, if you had a problem in your personal life that unfortunately required you to hire an attorney, and many of us have had that, right? You're not going to ask the question, who is the most partisan person I can hire? Who's the most politically extreme person I can hire? You'd ask questions like, is this person competent to get the job done? Do I trust them to fight for me? Will they find creative ways to make sure that they are an advocate for me? Will they provide independent advice to me and help me solving a problem? That is what I do every day as an attorney and as an advocate, and that's what I want to do as Attorney General. And so I'd really put it that way to them and say, you know, don't think of this in sort of left-right terms as just another office. Think of it as who's best prepared to make your rights say something, make your rights mean something in the courts and in your daily life. And when I say your rights, I mean, you have, like we talked about prescription drugs earlier, you have a right not to be the victim of illegally inflated drug prices. Like, that is a right in the law you have. But it doesn't mean anything unless you have an AG willing to go to court and pick a fight and be your advocate, be your independent watchdog. That's what this job is about.
Awesome. Amazing. I feel like that is like how you should end it. But if like, wow. Are there any other quick questions from anyone, or Rafe, if you want to kind of sum up anything, or
Sure, yeah.
Yeah, highlight what we talked about tonight.
Hey, Allison, I got a real quick one.
Yeah, Dwayne, go for it.
And I think that Ray can probably answer this one right off. Where do you send a check to donate?
I will tell you, and I will type it out. Actually, Tyler will type it, and I'll tell you. It's donate, you send a check to Friends of Raph Graybill, and that is P.O. Box 2728. That's Great Falls, Montana, 59403.
Okay, I got it.
Thank you. That's the best way to end.
There you go.
Thank you so much. Well, Allison, I really appreciate you hosting tonight's event. It is so good to see familiar friends, faces, names on the call, and I'm really excited to meet new folks on the call tonight. As we talked about at the top, this is a really important race. We know we can win. It's in the polling. We are tied right now. And anything you can do between today and Election Day will make a difference. And what that means is if you can donate, that makes a difference. If you can donate $50, $100, that makes a huge difference in our ability to communicate, give voters a real choice. Think about this. If you're giving them a choice, we can win. You can volunteer. That gives voters a real choice, and we can win. So if you can help me with those two things, it makes a big difference in the fall, and we can elect an Attorney General who is an independent watchdog for our rights. That's what you deserve as a Montanan, and that is why I'm running. So thank you so much for being here tonight, and hope to see you all sometime soon.
Yes,
take care.
Awesome. Thank you so much, Rafe. Thank you, everyone, for joining us. And we've got more of these this week, so look at our website, gallatindemocrats.com//events. Lots of things going on. Thank you all. Have a wonderful evening.